Kia ora, everyone. There are two traditions of poetry in my country. There is a written English tradition, and there, as you have seen here many times this week, there is an oral Māori tradition. And for a long time I've wondered what it would look like to try and put those traditions together. And so the pieces that I've written for the Transit of Venus project have done that. They've wanted to show you how an oral culture, how a much older culture of poetry in my country breathes back in to what is seen as a more modern way of writing or recording stories. And you'll wonder what these are. These are gourds. Māori have a tradition of using their stories to decorate everyday objects. So these, it's probably a silly thing to do at a book fair, but I've put my poems on gourds. And so these have been my fat little friends for the last few months, and I'm going to use them to help me tell the stories. Sometimes Māori would also sing into the gourd to record a story in it, and when they needed it, take the top off and the story would come out. All these songs have been written for a son of Germany, a man called Ernst Diefenbach, who was the first resident scientist to live in New Zealand from 1839 to 1841. And he wrote 2 volumes about our flora, our fauna, our geological structure. He wrote the second ever grammar of the Māori language and left us quite a body of work. He also came from just up the road in Gießen, and I'm looking to try and leave the gourd somewhere there to remember that a son of Germany is also a son of New Zealand, a son of Aotearoa. So I'll get my friends. This first song is a cross between a haka, which you've seen already here this week, a posture dance, a form of poetry in my country, and a sea shanty, which is the beginning of oral poetry in New Zealand. And it's about Diefenbach coming out here out to New Zealand on a boat called the Tory. On a journey to Aotearoa, the crew of the Tory sing in honour of the German naturalist Ernst Diefenbach. Diefenbach? Diefenbach? What sort of leaky knack? What sort of leaky knack? Cutter? Or cutty sack? Diefenbach, Diefenbach, shivers your creaky ass. Heave away, haul away, heave away, ho. Diefenbach, Diefenbach, what sort of heathen art? What sort of heathen art measures the tui fat? Diefenbach, Diefenbach, here's to the inky lark. Heave away, haul away, heave away, ho. Oh, Diefenbach, Diefenbach, king of the buttercup, knacky, tobacco, grey wacky and fuck. Oh, Diefenbach, Diefenbach, Jesus, the clutter up. Heave away, haul away, heave away, ho. Diefenbach, Diefenbach, what sort of pakeha? What sort of pakeha? Jatta or bleeding heart? Diefenbach, Diefenbach, hey-ho, the patriarch. Heave away, haul away, heave away, ho. Heave away, haul away, heave away, ho. They can be quite noisy, my friends, but this is a sweeter one. Diefenbach died as Professor of Geology at Gießen University. He was 44 years old and succumbed to typhus. And this is a song to a bird he named in New Zealand, which later became extinct. and it's sung. It's an oral piece because I chose a German folk song to set this to that Diefenbach would have known. Ich hab die Nacht geträumt. Following his early death from typhus, Ernst Diefenbach considers the extinction of a small bird carrying his name in the London Museum of Natural History. My friend, sometimes it frightens. I hear the darkness call. Songs and dreams and fragments. I fear that this is all. Your feathers brown and yellow, my cloak and shirt of wool. The daytime and the night time, across each coat must pull. Oh, can you hear the owl laugh, the robin in her tree? I listen for the huia, perhaps she'll sing for me. My friend, sometimes it frightens. I fear the darkness too. Songs and dreams and fragments are all I have for you. Songs and dreams and fragments, this one I'll sing for you. What really drew me to Diefenbach is that he trained to be a doctor. And when he was in New Zealand, he only got to practice medicine a couple of times. One was at a battle fought just north of Wellington at the Battle of Kuititanga, which was 173 years ago on Monday. And back home, when I'm not writing, I work as a doctor, and I work around the Waikanae River mouth where Diefenbach worked, and I talked to some of my patients and found out that their ancestors had been on the beach that day, and possibly been treated by Diefenbach. So this is a song I wrote about two doctors connected over 173 years in the genealogy of their patients. But it's written as a mōtiatia and sung in Māori in an oral piece of poetry in Māori. But I hope it speaks regardless of that. 173 years after the Battle of Kuititanga, the descendants of survivors treated on the beach by Ernst Diefenbach convey their gratitude as one doctor of Te Atiawa pays respect to another. Te tohunga e paki, kei te ora tonu rātou ngā whehua, nā ui tākai ki tia ana rātou e au, e hikoi tonu ana, e kani ana, Kei konei ko te kohi ki ana tana kapu I te one he ko ha mau. No kuititanga, he aha kei roto, he ko iwi, he kota, he aria. No o tapuai, no o tapuai. He uri ia no era, na ui whakaora, no na hoki ko koe. No na hoki ko koe, kei konei ko te hono I reira ia I te kauhanga riri I te tatari ia te tahi wai I kona te tahi wai I konei rere ake ana kupu he manu he karere he whenu no aku whenu. Hei haka mahana, kei konei e tahi atu nā kūrātau ia whi whakaora ara maratau. Ka tai atu ki a koe, ka tai atu ki a koe. Kei mua, kei muri, hei aha e ho, tiranga tira, haere pai atu, haere pai atu. Aha ko kei tawhati, nā mātou koe, e hia ngā pito, o te ngākau. Mō tēnei wā, me hakata tututawa, me huhuti ngā hera ara. Me tere anō, ki waho mō ana, ki waho mō ana. Ki waho mō ana e. I just want to take the time at the end of our poetry on the Transit of Venus to say thank you to you all for coming and listening to us. I'm a doctor, so I know too much poetry can kill you, and an hour is pretty much knife-edge stuff. I want to say thank you to Aurelie and Uli and Bettina for looking after the New Zealanders over here, and thank you to my colleagues, the poets. I think one of the sweetest things from this whole program has been the friendships and the conversations that have only just begun. So thank you all for coming, for listening to us, and I hope you enjoy the rest of your day.
Te hunga tautoko, no wiwi no wawa. Te mutunga ke mai nei. O te mana ki tanga no reira. He mihi no te ngākau. He kupu no te mana wa no tātou anō te mana. Koia kea tātou e